everyone, I'm Sophie and I am the host of our COVID-19 video series. Today's guest is Joe Urban. He's the CEO of Potrero Medical, a Silicon Valley-based startup developing new technology for fluid management in critically ill patients. Hi Joe, how are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. So I'd love for you to give our listeners a bit more of a background about yourself and your area of expertise and what it is that you do.
Sure. Joe Urban, CEO of Potrero Medical. I've been the CEO of Potrero for about 3 years. We are a commercial stage company, and right now we're highly focused on providing our technology for hospitals all over the world to help with specifically with COVID-19 patients, but also any patient that's in the ICU benefits from our technology. And so we are working as a team to get this to as many hospitals as possible. We are in a number of hospitals in the United States. We just launched in Europe, and we're going to be entering other geographies around the world. And what the technology does is it helps with managing the fluids of a patient, which can be a challenge for the ICU. Fluids being food, saline, or medicine that goes into the patient, and how to make sure that the right fluid amount goes in. And we have the outputs where we measure the performance of the kidney in the form of the urine production. And we're able to guide what should go back into the patient. And today it's fairly invisible as far as the technology goes. There's a ton of limitations. And what we've done is we've taken 100-year-old technology, we've added sensors, machine learning algorithms, and we've taken this technology from 100 years ago to where it should be today.
That's really exciting. And how long have you had this company? How long have you been doing this?
I started in 2017 as the CEO. Before that, I was in robotics. I've spent the last 20 years in the medical field in medical device sales for big companies like Boston Scientific and C.R. Bard to startups. And so it's been a lot of great learnings. I've met some wonderful healthcare heroes over the years, doctors and nurses, and it's just right now they're getting the recognition that they deserve, and something that I've seen since I started, and how much each clinician cares for their patient. It's not just with COVID-19, it's every single day. And so the nurses, the doctors, and then the other folks in the hospital that people aren't necessarily mentioning that make the hospital run, from hospital administrators to the janitor to folks that are serving the food to the people, everybody. It's just an amazing ecosystem.
Absolutely. So let's talk a bit more about the reason we're here. So obviously, right now we're under pandemic. Everyone is uncertain about what the future holds. A lot of people are worried, stressed, that their health is being affected. What are some of the challenges that you know of, that you've seen, that people are facing at the moment?
Sure, and I will start with something that I keep reminding people of. Humanity always wins. It always wins. And so we always have a way of creatively approaching every problem. And you can see, and I would flip it on you on this, where instead of saying the negative, think of the positives that will come from this. And there are positives, and there are ways to condition your mind to see that. And the way I look at it, and I challenge my team at Potrero, is, think of what is happening in the world today that is great. And right now we have the world's best minds working on one problem. And what happens when you have that collective brain trust working together to solve something as big as COVID-19, you have byproducts that spin out, and just ideas and innovation that happen. And to me, that's a miracle of humanity, and what we should remind ourselves of every single day, that there will be great things that come out of this, and we can't lose sight of it. And right now we're 1, 2, 3 months into it, depending on where you are in the world. But as long as you look at this and say, I'm gonna get through today. I'm gonna get through the week, the month, the year. Everything will be fine. And I remember Susie Welch had a book that came out that was 10, 10, 10. And she said, look at your life as 10 minutes, 10 months, and 10 years. Does it matter in the next 10 minutes? Well, I better focus on that. If it doesn't matter in 10 months, then I'm not going to focus on it. And if it doesn't matter in 10 years, then it's really artificial stress that I'm putting on myself. And so what I would say is, as you tackle your the daily grind, focus and condition your mind from the moment you wake up. Focus on the gratitudes and the positive affirmations that get you moving in the right place. And you have to condition your mind to focus on the absolute positives that will happen as a result of the whole world coming together, whether it's families spending more time together, whether it's less contrails in the sky and giving Earth a break for a couple months. The world will be different, and people are inherently afraid of change. What I challenge at least my kids to do is embrace that change, grab it, love it, be a part of it, and know that there are great things that will happen. It's just sometimes scary when you're faced with change, and sometimes you just have to make that mental jump that everything's fine and everything will continue to be fine as long as you're upright, vertical, breathing, walking, and living. That's a lot better than the opposite. So
Yeah.
don't forget that.
I can tell you're an entrepreneur. I am myself. And I think, yeah, always seeing the opportunities
Right.
when something like this happens is a mindset that I personally have. Um, so what other kind of advice do you have for people who are struggling to see the positives right now, or who are finding it particularly challenging?
Yeah, your thoughts become you. And so and I've learned this over the course of my professional career, but if you have negative thoughts, you'll be negative. And if you watch and then let's say that the thoughts that you're putting into your brain by watching the news, it's constantly negative. Do you know why? They make a living on keeping you focused on what they're saying. You're not going to learn anything new from watching the news. Nothing at all. It's all the same, and it's designed to polarize you and to drive that into you. Turn it off, focus on something that will grow your brain. I trained for several ultra marathons, and I tell people when they ask me how you do that, it's you have to condition your mind as much as you have to condition your body to run very long distances, because you're going to have extreme highs and extreme lows. And it's the highs are easy to get through. It's when you get to the low, if you haven't conditioned your mind, it's going to be hard. And so what I would say is turn off the TV and stop focusing on the news, because they've told you everything you need to know. And so focus on what you can control in your life. Focus on exercising your mind and your body, and making good decisions for what you eat. Right now, it's just easy to slip into something where it's like, well, this is bad. I bet, and I'm gonna eat a slice of cake. That might be okay every now and then, not every day for shelter in place. Sorry. So just some thoughts.
Yeah. Um, I'd like to get into this a bit more. So on the mindset front, you talk about
Yeah.
conditioning your mind. Um, what does that look like practically? How can
Okay.
someone sort of foster those new mental habits and those new thought patterns, and kind of integrate these changes in a positive way into their daily life?
Yeah, sure. Uh, I can give it to you from a work standpoint, from a athletic, personal development standpoint, and just from a personal experience standpoint. So, from a work standpoint, the power of visualization is real, and it's training your subconscious mind that's always running uh, to work while you're sleeping, while you're getting distracted in the day. It starts at night, and the reason I know this is real is I mentioned ultra marathons. This is probably the most applicable to how to make this work. And I went from, just a average runner, and we raised money for a child that was battling childhood cancer. We wanted to raise awareness and funds for Cure Childhood Cancer, which is a charity in Atlanta, for a coworker's son who is facing and ultimately passed from the childhood cancer. But I put up a pretty crazy goal, and that was to run 100 miles, and not just to run 100 miles, but to run 100 miles in Leadville, Colorado, which is one of the highest cities in the United States. The race starts at 10,200 feet. So to put that in perspective, Denver, Colorado is at 1 mile. This is 2 miles above sea level. It's higher. The starting line is higher than the ski resorts in Colorado. And then you run 100 miles nonstop. And I knew that it was going to take a year to train my body. And what I started doing every single night when I go to bed is I would visualize the 99.5 mile mark where you crest the top of Harrison Drive and you're looking down on 6th Street, you're looking at Harrison and the finish line. And every night when I'd go to bed, I'd condition my mind, and I would spend 15 minutes thinking about that. And just, that's the only thing I would think about. What I didn't realize was that as I was spending a year getting ready for this race and going from a 5K to a 10K to a half marathon, a 60K, all the way up to Leadville, which starts at 4 a.m. in the morning, and you see 2 sunrises because you don't stop running for 30 hours. And so in the mountains of Colorado, what I realized was at mile 68, I had an injury and I collapsed, and I went into a fetal position on the side of the mountain, and I thought my race was over. And thankfully I had a pacer with me that picked me up and shook me and said, "Get back into the race. This isn't going to happen again." And I ran 32 miles on a injured foot because my mind had conditioned. It was so conditioned for only one outcome, and that was success and crossing that finish line. So the lesson I learned, and that I share with my team at Potrero, and I share with people when they say, "How do I lose weight? How do I do this? How do I do?" You could go on a crash diet and lose 10 pounds, but that's temporary. It's very temporary if you don't condition your mind as you're conditioning your body to a new diet or to a new lifestyle. And so in work, so that's the most applicable to me personally from an experience standpoint. From a work standpoint, I set goals for myself and for my team and for my company. And I report those to the board of directors, and those goals are the first step of visualizing. What I tell people is, look, I want you to set a goal for you. And so as you think about that goal, that's what you think about every single day. And that's how you not only think about the goal, but you think about the emotion that's tied to achieving that goal. The goal is the moment in time. But let's say it's, for an example, let's say it's to finish a project. What emotion do you have when you finish that project? What do you feel like when you tell your family that you've done it? And that's the goal that you have to visualize. You have to visualize the feeling that you get. And if you can do that, and you can do that when you go to bed, when your conscious mind goes to sleep, your subconscious is always going, and it's working. And I'm telling you from personal experience, the more you condition your mind and the more positive you feed into it, the better. Another thing that I try to live by is you're the byproduct of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So if you're with negative people, you're going to have a negative outlook on life. If you don't have people around you that are positive, that are driving you, that are encouraging you, that are building up your dreams, not tearing them down, guess what? That's going to happen. And so do a healthy inventory on your friends. And I just wrote a graduation letter for my nephew, and I said, outside of your spouse, your friends are the most important decision you're going to make, because they will mold and guide you for your whole life. And so make sure that the people that you're dealing with in your life are building you up, and they're giving you energy, not taking it away.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree with you more. I know from the visualization standpoint, I've had experience with that too. I moved to Toronto 4 years ago, and for the last 6 to 9 months, when I was preparing to, like, mentally and physically preparing to emigrate, I would visualize myself in Canada, what my new life was going to look like, and I would have that image so clearly in my head of how it would feel and what I would do, and honestly, it kept me going, and everything did feel quite smooth when I arrived, because it was just like, of course this is happening, because it already has happened. It's like you trick your brain into thinking it's already happened and it's okay. And from the perspective of you are the people around you,
Yeah.
I completely relate to that as well. I think it's really important to do that regular inventory to see how you feel when you're talking to people about yourself, about your life, about your future. Is it lifting you up? Is it pulling you towards the things that you want? Do you feel like things are achievable, or do you feel like, oh, every time I bring up this, there's always oh, but this might
That's
happen.
right.
Have you thought about that?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right. And it is key to do the inventory, and it's important to constantly evaluate the people around you, because that will happen. And I will tell you, this is something that is not an easy thing to do, to condition your subconscious. It's I tell people oftentimes that if you look at running a marathon, let's say that's a goal of yours, and I'm going to run a marathon. It's pretty easy to understand how to run the marathon, right? I need to buy some tennis shoes. I need to buy some running shorts and a t-shirt. I need to start with a 5K and work our way up to 24 or 26.2 miles. That's easy, like, because people have done it. There are books. Here's the training plan you need. What's hard is the mental conditioning that's associated with that, and everything that goes into crossing that finish line. And what people don't talk about is the other half of the equation. It's not just physical, it's mental. And the founder of this race in Leadville, the Leadville 100, has a couple of really great sayings. One of them that just always sticks with me is Leadville's 100 miles, but the hardest distance that you're going to have to beat in this race are the 5 inches between your ears. When you think about that, that's pretty profound. That anybody can do something like that, but you have to condition your mind. And what he said, the second thing he said is the first half of the race is physical, the second half is mental. And I would say that that's true with the COVID. The first half is physical. Everybody can stay at home for a month, but then if you're not conditioning your mind, the second half is mental. And you have to condition it. You have to exercise it. And you have to anticipate. Let's say you've never run a marathon. You have to anticipate that just like it would seem impossible to run 26.2 miles today, assume that's the same thing for your mind. And so every time you're saying, I need to do a 5K, I need to do 10K, all the way up to the marathon, it's the same goalposts, milestones, mile markers in your brain, that I have to get to a 5K for conditioning my mind. I have to get to a 10K for conditioning my mind. And as you go through this and you're looking at the situation around you, control what you can, turn off the news, eat as well as you can, and exercise your body. And start with something, start with a visualization, and understand it's not going to be a quick fix. It's not a magic pill. And that this is something that you're going to have to commit to, and make it a regular occurrence every single night before you go to bed. 15 minutes out of 24 hours, it's nothing, and it's great. And the benefit you get for those 15 minutes as you're going to sleep, by the way, is worth everything.
Well, thank you so much for sharing everything. I'm fully supportive of all of your advice, and I encourage everyone to try it out at home. Thank you so much, Joe.